Before supermarkets stocked every shelf and takeaway became the easy option, Aboriginal Australians had perfected cooking techniques that sustained the world's oldest continuous culture for over 65,000 years. These were not just recipes. They were survival, medicine, and connection to country, all rolled into one. 15 native Australian recipes you'll wish you knew sooner takes you through flavours that have fed this continent since time immemorial and shows nutrition and taste that put modern cooking to shame. Damper. If you grew up in Australia, you've heard of damper. Maybe you even made it at a school camp, burning the outside while the middle stayed raw. Traditional damper comes from the bush. Stockmen and drovers made it over campfires using just flour, water, and salt. Mix it, shape it, cook it in the coals. The dough would be wrapped around a stick or buried in ash, turning into dense, chewy bread that could keep a bloke going all day. But here's what nobody talks about. Aboriginal Australians were making seed cakes thousands of years earlier. They ground native grass seeds into flour using grinding stones, mixed it with water, and cooked it on hot rocks. Same principle, just older. The trick was getting the heat right. Too hot, and you'd have charcoal with a raw centre. Most of us learned this at every school camp across the country. There was something about damper fresh from the coals, that crispy crust giving way to the soft inside, slathered with golden syrup or just eaten plain. It wasn't fancy, but it was bloody good. Witchetty grubs. Right. Here is where we separate the true blue from the tourists. Witchetty grubs, those fat white larvae you find in the roots of witchetty bushes, are packed with more protein per gram than beef. Aboriginal people across Central Australia have eaten them for thousands of years. Raw, they taste like almonds, with a slightly nutty flavour and a creamy texture. Cooked over coals, they crisp up on the outside while staying soft inside, tasting like roasted chicken. No, really, the trick was finding them. You would look for dying witchetty bushes, dig around the roots, and there they would be. Desert communities would gather them by the handful. Instant protein. No refrigeration needed. What made them special was not just the nutrition. They represented deep knowledge of country, knowing which trees, which season, and how to harvest without destroying the food source for next time. Your mate, who will not eat them but happily eats prawns, same thing, different location. Kangaroo tail soup. Kangaroo tail soup sits at the intersection of Aboriginal tradition and early colonial cooking. Aboriginal Australians had been slow cooking kangaroo over coals for millennia. Then settlers arrived, tasted it, and realised they had been missing out. The tail is separated at the joints, then browned with whatever vegetables you have, onions, carrots, potatoes. Then it is covered with water and simmered for hours until the meat falls off the bone and the broth turns thick and gelatinous. That slow cooking breaks down the connective tissue, creating a broth so rich it coats the back of a spoon. The meat becomes tender enough to shred with a fork. And the flavour is deep and rich, nothing like the lean kangaroo steaks that dry out if you look at them wrong. This was not just food, it was medicine. That collagen-rich broth helped with joint pain and gut health. Aboriginal Australians knew this instinctively. For station hands and drovers, kangaroo tail soup meant making the most of what the land provided. One tail could feed a camp. Bush tomato chutney. Bush tomatoes, also called akurdjura, grow wild across Central Australia. They are not actually tomatoes. They are a native solanum that tastes like sun-dried tomatoes crossed with caramel and tamarind. Bloody delicious. Aboriginal people have been eating them for thousands of years, either fresh or dried. The dried ones keep for ages. When you rehydrate them and cook them down with bush honey or sugar, you get a chutney that is sweet, tangy, and completely unique. The dried fruits get soaked until they plump up, then simmered slowly with water and sweetener. As it cooks, the mixture thickens into a dark, jammy spread that works on everything from damper to grilled kangaroo. The trick was patience. Rush it, and you would end up with burnt bitterness. Take your time, and the flavours developed into something special. What made bush tomatoes valuable went beyond taste. They are packed with antioxidants, twice the levels of blueberries. They were food and medicine rolled into one. Lemon myrtle fish. Lemon myrtle, that tree with leaves that smell like bottled sunshine, grows along the east coast. Aboriginal Australians used it for everything from tea to medicine to flavouring food. Then someone wrapped it around fish, and honestly, we peaked early. The leaves contain more citral than actual lemons. When you wrap fresh barramundi in lemon myrtle leaves and cook it over coals or in paper bark, the oils infuse the flesh with the most incredible aroma. Traditional preparation involved stuffing the fish cavity with lemon myrtle, then wrapping the whole thing in paper bark before burying it in hot coals. 20 minutes later, you would unwrap perfectly steamed fish that tasted like it had been kissed by a lemon grove. The beauty lies in its simplicity. No complicated sauces, no fancy techniques, just fish, leaves, fire, and time. Your mate, who burns fish on the barbie every Australia Day, could learn something here. Wattle seed damper. Wattle seed takes regular damper and elevates it into something special. These seeds from various acacia trees have been ground into flour for thousands of years, creating a nutty, coffee-like flavour. Aboriginal Australians would collect wattle seed pods, roast them to intensify the flavour, then grind them between stones. The resulting flour was mixed with water and formed into cakes. When European flour arrived, people started combining the two, using regular flour for structure and wattle seed for flavour. The seeds give the bread a dark colour and a taste that is nutty, earthy, almost chocolatey. Some people swear it tastes like coffee. Others say hazelnut. Everyone agrees it is bloody good. The trick was not overdoing it. Too much wattle seed, and the damper turned bitter. Just enough, and you get beautiful complexity that makes plain butter taste gourmet. What made wattle seed important was not just flavour. It provided protein and nutrients that regular flour did not have, and it connected people to country through the act of gathering and processing. Kwandong PA. The Kwandong, native peach, grows across southern Australia, producing bright red fruit that tastes tart and slightly peachy with a hint of rhubarb. Aboriginal Australians have been eating them fresh and dried for thousands of years. Fresh kwandongs are tart, really tart, but when you cook them down with sugar or honey, they transform into this incredible filling that is simultaneously sweet and tangy. The large seed is removed. The flesh is simmered until it breaks down into a jammy consistency. Then it is baked in pastry until golden. Some versions add cinnamon or lemon myrtle. Others keep it simple. The magic lies in that perfect sweet and tart balance. It is like apple pie's more interesting cousin. The one who travelled. What made kwandongs valuable went beyond dessert. They are loaded with vitamin C, more than oranges. They helped prevent scurvy long before citrus fruits arrived. Give your nan, who makes a killer apple pie, some kwandongs and watch magic happen. Macadamia nut crust barramundi. Macadamias are native to the Queensland rainforest. Aboriginal people cracked them open with rocks. Those shells are harder than most people's resolve. They ate the rich, buttery nuts raw or roasted. The preparation involves crushing roasted macadamias with native herbs, lemon myrtle and saltbush to create a coating for barramundi fillets. You press the mixture onto the fish, then bake or pan fry until the crust turns golden and crunchy, while the fish stays moist inside. The combination works because macadamias are rich and buttery, balancing the lean, delicate barramundi. The native herbs add complexity without overwhelming. And that crust provides textural contrast, crispy outside and tender inside. What made macadamias challenging was accessing them. Those shells required serious rockwork to crack, but the effort was worth it. They were packed with healthy fats, protein and nutrients, and they could be stored for months. Now macadamias are a commercial crop. Australia exports them worldwide. But that original combination, macadamias and local fish, cooked simply over fire, remains unbeaten. Muntry Berry Jam. Muntries, small berries that grow along the southern coast, taste like apple crossed with cloves, with a hint of eucalyptus. Aboriginal people ate them fresh or dried for later use. Making Muntry jam starts with collecting the ripe berries in late summer. They get simmered with water and sugar until they break down and release their pectin. The mixture thickens naturally, turning into jam with a unique spicy sweet flavour. The trick was getting the sugar ratio right. Too much and you would mask the Muntry flavour. Too little and it would not set. Most people ended up with Muntry syrup before they got proper jam. What made Muntries special went beyond taste. They are packed with antioxidants, 4 times the levels in blueberries. And they are distinctly Australian, tasting like nothing else on earth. Coastal communities have been making Muntry jam for generations. Some families guard their recipes like state secrets. Pepperberry crusted wallaby. Tasmanian pepperberry grows wild in southeastern Australia. The berries taste like pepper with fruity undertones and a slow-building heat that sneaks up on you. The preparation involves crushing dried pepperberries and mixing them with salt to create a crust for wallaby steaks. The meat gets seared quickly over high heat. Wallaby is lean and dries out if you overcook it. The pepperberry crust forms a spicy, aromatic coating. Traditional cooking used hot stones or coals, aiming for quick searing and keeping the meat rare in the middle. The pepperberries added flavour and helped preserve the meat through their antimicrobial properties. What made it work was the contrast. The lean, slightly gamey meat needed that flavour boost. The pepperberries provided heat without overwhelming. If your mate thinks kangaroo is too gamey, they have never tried properly cooked wallaby with pepperberries. It is a game changer. Saltbush roasted lamb saltbush grows across inland Australia, thriving in salty soils where other plants struggle. Sheep love eating it, and it gives their meat a unique flavour. When you roast lamb with fresh saltbush, the herbs infuse the meat with a subtle salinity that means you barely need to add salt. Stuff the lamb with saltbush sprigs, rub more on the outside, and then slow roast the meat until it is tender. Roast it low and slow for the best results. Traditional cooking involved wrapping meat in saltbush and burying it in earth ovens with hot stones. The slow, even heat and the aromatic herbs created incredibly tender meat that fell off the bone. What made saltbush valuable went beyond flavour. It is packed with minerals and vitamins. It grows in harsh conditions where other plants fail, and it is sustainable. Outback stations still use saltbush, both as stock feed and as an herb for cooking. The natural salt content seasons the meat on its own. Emu meatballs with native herbs. Emu meat is lean. Really lean. It is about 98% fat-free, which is brilliant for your heart, but troublesome if you do not know what you are doing. To make the meatballs, mix minced emu with added fat, traditionally from emu and now often olive oil, and native herbs such as native basil, lemon myrtle, and pepperberry. Form the mixture into balls and cook them quickly so the centers stay rare. The trick is adding enough fat and moisture. Pure emu mince turns into rubber if you overcook it, but with the right additions and quick cooking, it becomes tender meatballs with a rich, slightly gamey flavor. What made emu special was its sustainability. They were large birds that could feed multiple people. The meat was incredibly healthy, high in iron, zinc, and vitamin C. And every part was used. Nothing was wasted. Bush honey glazed vegetables. Sugar bag honey, made by native stingless bees, tastes different from European honeybee honey. It is more complex, slightly sour, and intensely floral. Aboriginal Australians have been harvesting it for thousands of years. When you glaze roasted vegetables with sugar bag honey, something magical happens. The honey caramelizes without becoming cloyingly sweet. Native root vegetables like yams work particularly well. Roast them until tender, then brush with diluted sugar bag honey in the last few minutes. The magic lies in its complexity. It is not just sweet. There are tangy notes, floral undertones, and a slight sourness. When it hits heat, it transforms roasted vegetables into something special. Its value went beyond cooking. It had medicinal properties, and harvesting it required deep knowledge of bee behavior, tree types, and seasonal patterns. Finding a sugar bag hive was cause for celebration. The honey was shared with the community, and the bees were left with enough to survive. Preserving meat through drying has kept people alive for thousands of years. Thin strips of kangaroo meat, dried in the sun or over smoke, lasted months. Modern kangaroo jerky adds Davidson's plum, a native fruit that is tart, deep purple, and packed with antioxidants. You marinate thin kangaroo strips in diluted Davidson's plum juice with native herbs, then dry them slowly until they are chewy but not rock hard. The plum juice tenderizes the lean meat, adds sweet tart flavor, and has preservative properties that help the jerky last longer. What made kangaroo perfect for jerky was its leanness. Less fat meant it dried faster and lasted longer without going rancid. The trick was cutting it thin enough. Too thick, and the center stayed soft and spoiled. Too thin, and it dried into brittle shards. Bunya nut soup. Every 3 years or so, bunya pines produce massive cones filled with nuts the size of chestnuts. Aboriginal groups from across southeastern Queensland would gather for bunya festivals, feasting on the nuts and conducting ceremonies. Bunya nuts can be eaten raw, roasted, or boiled. For soup, you would boil them until soft, then mash them into a thick, creamy base. Then add water or broth to thin it, add some native vegetables, and you have a soup that is nutty, filling, and incredibly satisfying. Traditional bunya festivals represented more than just food gathering. They were social events. Marriage negotiations happened. Disputes got settled. Knowledge was shared. And everyone ate bunya nuts in every form imaginable. What made bunya nuts special was their irregular abundance. They did not fruit every year, so when they did, it was an event. Communities planned around it, and they travelled to traditional gathering sites. For those who attended traditional bunya gatherings, the memory of that soup, thick and nutty and shared among hundreds, represents something deeper than just food. It is cultural memory, community, and connection to country. So there you have it. 15 native Australian recipes that represent 65,000 years of food knowledge. From witchetty grubs to bunyannut soup, these are not just meals, they are living history. What comes to mind when you think of native Australian food? Have you tried any of these? Share your experiences in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip through Australia's original cuisine, subscribe for more content about the food, traditions and memories that make this country what it is.